Hello, everybody. Welcome to the third episode of Be Safe and Be Brave. First of all, I'd like to say Happy New Year to everybody who's watching this video right now. Today's episode, I'm gonna call it The Agony of Minorities in Islamic Countries. Why did I choose this title for this episode? It is actually, I had a conversation with a friend a few days ago. This friend is who grew up in this Western country where I live right now, and they kind of feeling bad. Oh, how come we hurt Muslims this way? How come we say they are terrorists? How come we consider this Islamophobia? Exactly the same topic I was talking about last time. My purpose of that conversation with this person, I'm trying to tell him, yeah, I totally understand that we are not talking about people here, we are talking more about the ideology itself that makes people terrorists. But we cannot deny that what people do is a reflection of what belief is behind them. So for this reason, I want to give examples from the Middle East where I grew up in, and I will show you exactly how things are over there right now or any time over the past 1,400 years, 1400 years in total, since Islam invaded the entire world. So I'm going to give you a background, a little bit of where I come from. Of course, I'll try to be careful not to share any personal information for my own safety, but at the same time, I'd like to give some hints about it. Anyway, I have no choice. So I grew up in a country where people from my background, who are around like 15% of the overall population of the country, and the rest of the population are Muslims. And historically, this country used to be 100% Christians, or at least 95% Christians when Islam started. And when the Muslim Arabs, under the commands of the first Khalifa, how they call it in Arabic, he sent people to that country to invade it and to convert it to Islam. At that time, it was estimated that around 20 million people in that country were Christians, and they had their own language that has nothing to do with Arabic. All of them started to become forced to either, of course, they were given the same choices to either to convert to Islam or pay very heavy tax. Not everybody can afford, called Al-Jizya. So, of course, everybody who couldn't afford that tax, they chose to convert to Islam. Some of them had no money and nobody paid that Jizya on their behalf, and they did not accept to convert to Islam, so they were forced to do it, so they lost their lives. Anyway, what I'm trying to talk about here is about those people who continued, who kept their faith by paying for that heavy tax, Al-Jizya. They remain Christians until today, and from them I come. From these people I come. We had our own native language. Unfortunately, we do not know anything about this language anymore. It's just that language only just being used in the mass in churches, but nobody even understands it. We just recite it without understanding what we are saying. So this gives you a hint of what kind of peaceful evangelization, if I can use it, how Muslims forced Islam on my ancestors. My ancestors had to choose to speak a different language. This means if 20 million people all of a sudden change their language, this means something like that happened to them. Chop off their tongue if you speak any other language other than Arabic. You want to experiment that? Okay, tell me, can a country of 20 million people nowadays, for example, speaks Chinese, let's say hypothetically Dominican Republic, and Dominican Republic all of a sudden speak Chinese and forget about Spanish? Does it make any sense? I don't think if something like that happened, it would be a peaceful transition. It has to be some forceful transition. Anyway, I just want to give a short introduction about my ancestors' history. Let's talk about nowadays life in that as minority in that country. I'm going to talk about myself as an example. First of all, imagine that you or your son or your daughter who's 7 years old or 8 years old or 12 years old, every day they go to school while walking the streets to go to school, or going to school by bus, or in the school itself, either in the playground, in the class, in the gymnasts, anywhere in their lives, they are being bullied. How would you feel? And they are not being bullied just because they are nerd, or just because they are bad looking, or just because they have obese or anything like that. They are just being bullied just because their names and their appearance is Christian. Just because you are a minority. Tell me, how would you feel on a daily basis? Would you be happy? Or you might tell me, okay, this is the problem of people, not the problem of Islam itself. Well, they did not do that just because they are bad people. You just do it because this is what Muhammad told them to do. He told them, whenever a non-Muslim walks the street and he sees a Muslim, if this Muslim is riding a donkey, he had to leave, to get off his donkey, to walk on his feet out of respect to the Muslim who's coming on the other direction. And whenever you see them in the street, they have to give them hardest time. You have to push them against the walls. It's kind of humiliating them. This is what Muhammad told them, and trust me, they do it perfectly. I have seen all of that literally in my life. I'm not a person who's just pretending that just to make you feel, oh, we are sorry for you. No, I'm not just talking that about myself. I'm away now. The problem is about how many other people in the Middle East suffer the same suffering. At least where I grew up, it wasn't this bad compared to other countries like Iraq or some other countries like Syria and what's happening now for ISIS, but it's still the same mentality. Let me get out of that school thing and bullying thing. I want to give you just one example from what happened to me during school. More than once, I was beaten up for nothing but just being Christian. And I did not do anything to have this beaten up thing happen to me. I remember once I was playing with my friends. Of course, at that time I had to play with similar Christian friends because Muslim friends do not want to be friends with us. They avoid us because all the time they kind of insult us. Hey, you cursed Christian, you are a Jew. For some reason they hate Jews, even though in that country no Jews exist. But any 7 years old child hates Jews by heart. Why? He doesn't know, but this is what they tell them every day. You have to hate Jews. And since they do not see Jews, they use us they have to use that energy, the negative energy they have every day, hating somebody who they haven't seen, so they have to do it with somebody else. And the only alternative they have to Jews is Christians. Of course, Quran itself is teaching to hate Christians. It's not only Jews, but Christians and Jews. But since there is no Jews, we get double the amount of hate. How many times when I walk the street, somebody tells me, hey, you cursed Christian, or hey, you cursed Jew, you are going to hell. Sometimes they would throw stones at our windows and smash them. Every corner in that country, there is a mosque. It is estimated that in this country there is 120,000 registered mosques. When I say registered, this means there is more than that not registered, or the government does not know anything about them. In that country, it's way easy for anybody to get out of paying for property tax to just build a mosque at the first floor in his building. This would waive all taxes from him. See how easy it is to build a mosque. What's the problem with these so many number of mosques? The problem is every mosque at least had one or two, maybe three huge loudspeakers outside. You will realize that if you go to any Middle Eastern country, you will always hear them 5 times a day. There's something called the call of prayer. In that call of prayer, they repeat certain prayer in that loudspeakers, and the entire street would hear it. There is no way to hide from it. Probably if you ever visit a Middle Eastern country, you will see that yourself, or you will hear that yourself. At midnight, you will hear it 5 times a day. One of them is at around 4 a.m. or 3 a.m. I don't know exactly what time, or I don't remember exactly what time it happens. What's so significant about mentioning this thing? The thing is, every day in those loudspeakers, 5 times a day, especially on Friday, you will hear lots of cursing to those Jews and those Christians. From those loudspeakers, you will hear the guy saying, "Oh Allah, you may kill all the Jews, you may kill all the Christians, you may make their women widows, you may make their kids orphans. They are the sons of pigs and monkeys." That's a typical thing you will hear every day. I'm not talking about one, because I know many people will tell me, "Oh no, that's like, this is something rare, it doesn't happen everywhere." No. When I'm saying 100,000 and 120,000 mosques, registered mosques, let's say half of those mosques would do that, all the non-registered mosques as well would do the same thing. So imagine at least 60,000 mosques every day keep insulting Christians and Jews in public. The police will never do anything about it because the police is actually happy with that. Tell me, how do you expect a 5-year-old Muslim child hearing this thing would grow up? Wouldn't he just be hating Christians and Jews? He would hate Christians because he sees them. How about Jews who never saw them? No surprise we see what we have, what problems we have in the Middle East now. And please do not tell me they hate Jews just because Israel existed like 60 years ago. They hate Jews 1400 years ago. Okay, here's another thing. In return, tell me how many churches you can renovate their bathrooms in this country. You have to get a permission from the president of the country itself. I'm talking about something happening right now. I'm not talking about something happened at a certain point in life. I'm talking about something happening all the time until today. If this is the typical Islam we see, before I go to this point, I have to add more stuff. You have daily discrimination as a minority in such a country. This is just, by the way, this is considered one of the moderate countries. I'm not talking about Saudi Arabia, where you are even not allowed to have a Bible. You can lose your life if you enter Saudi Arabia carrying a Bible, or they found a Bible hidden in your suitcases. You know that Saudi Arabia, they have 2 cities Muslims are not allowed to enter. You can even Google that here, and you can see the pictures of the billboards of the directions. Muslims go left, non-Muslims go right. That's in Saudi Arabia. In that country I come from, it's considered more moderate than that. But this is the kind of Islam they learn every day. And this is why we see those terrorists every day. By the way, those terrorists are not only the ones who kill like ISIS. Those terrorists exist in every day in your life. Whenever you go to a bank, somebody will give you a hard time just because you are Christian. You will tell me how they know that they're Christian. They know that you're Christian by many ways. First of all, we look different. As I mentioned, Muslims in that country are kind of mix of the natives plus the Arabs. We are not mixed with the Arabs. That's why we have different genes. Slightly, you can tell the difference. If you have trained eye, you can tell the difference. Another thing, by names. Our first names and middle names or last names, all of them, there has to be something Christian named them. There is no way you can hide you are Christian. Of course, we don't hide because we are Christian because we are proud of our faith. But at the same time, we pay for that cost heavily. You pay for it when you want to apply for a job, you might be rejected. When you apply for anything. If you want to just like go to the bank, sometimes they give you a hard time for it. It happened to me literally, and one of the guys said, one guy was smart actually. He knew I'm leaving the country, so when I asked to exchange money, one of them gave me a hard time. He doesn't want to change. The other one was smarter, and he told him, no, give him all the money he wants, so that all of them would leave the country. This happened to me literally. I'm not pretending that. I'm not making up this story. I'm honest, and God is my witness. These are just examples of what happened to me. My examples might not be as violent as some other examples. I know more than one person who lost their life literally in the same country, in the same moderate country. I know many people who were killed in explosions. I know many Christians who lost their businesses. Somebody would break into their business and take all what they have. So many girls I know, maybe not personally, but we know because they might be from my church. And those girls were kidnapped. And after a short time, we knew that they converted to Islam. And I believe they were blackmailed to convert to Islam somehow. Some of them were they would like rape them and videotape that, then use that against them. It happened, and I'm confident for my information. A girl related to me, I'm not gonna wanna say what kind of relationship I have towards her. She was once getting off the train, and all of a sudden she was falling on her face. Why? Because a huge rock was thrown against her back. She couldn't resist it and she fell off. And the guy who did that, he kept insulting her and calling her, "You are cursed Christian." And he left. Nobody stopped him, nobody said anything, and everybody was okay with it. People in the street do not care about seeing these things happen. Nobody would even say, "Oh, how come you do that?" If they didn't do it, not because they are against it, but just because they are okay with it. Anyway, my question to you now: why would Islam, when it comes to the West and becomes a majority, would be any different from Islam that existed for 1400 years in the Middle East? Tell me, why do Muslims do that in the first place in the Middle East? Not because they are bad, but because Islam itself is telling them to do that. Muhammad himself told them to do that. What is happening now in the Western world, and Western people do not understand, because Western people are more of trusting people. They trust everybody until they are proven to be wrong. Western people do not understand that this is the same strategy Muhammad did long time ago. Muhammad, in the beginning, in the first part of his mission, if we can call it a mission, when he wanted to get approval from everybody that he's a prophet from God, or Allah, as he called it now, he did not get any approval from Christians and Jews. He tried hard to get their approval by throwing a lot of peaceful verses. Oh, they are the most welcoming people, Christians are the most welcoming people, blah blah blah. And when he did that only to get approval from, he failed to get approval from Christians in Saudi Arabia, or like in the Arabian Peninsula at that time. He sent some people to hide in what's nowadays Ethiopia. Ethiopia is a Christian country until today. So he sent some messengers to the king of Ethiopia at that time. His name was Najashi. And he told him about those peaceful verses. Oh, the most friendly and the most peaceful people, and the most, like, they love you like brothers who are Christians. He said that in the beginning. Let me use a bad word. He was kissing ass the Ethiopian king at that time, so that he would accept them as refugees. What happened later on, when Muhammad himself had his own military power, when he moved from Mecca to Al-Madinah, all those Meccan Quran surahs are completely useless, because now we have the newer version of the violent Islam or the violent Quran, which is written in Al-Madinah. That's what's called Medinan Quran. So all the surahs written in Al-Madinah were extremely the opposite of the peaceful ones we saw earlier. This is a typical strategy we see now. I'm trying to tell you, do not be naive, because you think, yeah, they are peaceful. You have some peaceful friends, Muslim friends, and that's why you go so upset when somebody talks about Islam or Muslim negatively, because you kind of feel, no, that's kind of, I'm betraying my friends. My friends are Muslims and they're nice people. How come I say something against them? Well, they might be nice today. They might be nice because just they are nice, or just they are nice just because they are smart. They are following what Muhammad did. They are still minority. They are still weak. So they want their protection. They wouldn't, of course, go against you right now. But trust me, 1400 years from now, you will see another Middle East here in the Western world. Think about it before you reject what I'm saying. Read the history of the Middle East and tell me, why do you expect a different history here? Happy New Year.